Hello everyone, and welcome back to Stardate. This time Map 7, the finale. This is attempt 9 actually. And the first thing we want to do is to take these Hell Knights and make them kill the Cyber Demon. Well, not so much kill as distract. At least not yet, that is. They've killed them once. But the Cyber Demon almost always dies first. Well, not dies first, dies last. Sorry. However, you may have noticed something compared to the previous audio quality. I sound a lot better now. And while the infighting goes on, I shall tell you that I did buy a new headset because the old one started to degrade even more than it already was. So now I sound a whole lot better. Lucky me. And lucky you, I suppose, for your viewing experience. Once the Cyber Demon kills all of those guys, it'll be time for me to run out, which is what I'm preparing to do right now. Now the coast is clear, can run out, take out rocket launchers, and fire rockets. These three revenants have no deserving to live, so they won't. Here's a bit of a boring situation. This isn't the first or last time this is going to happen. Well, this is the first time, but this won't be the last time. There's gonna be some Cyber Demons that I have to kill like that. Although one of them will be gravely injured, so it won't take as long. About this run in particular, attempt 9, I actually like this run, because there's a bunch of close calls in it. And that's good for your viewing experience, it builds tension. Although, the penultimate fight is a really good thing for building tension. Unless you end up getting bored, that is. But, especially when you're playing it, there is quite a bit of tension. There's one wrong move there, and you're gonna have to deal with a bunch of archviles all at once. More than even at the end of God Machine. 19. Now these first few fights, I think I only died once here. So it's not that dangerous. This little archvile and Mancubi ambush is the most difficult thing there. Here we've got a exercise in shooting fish in the barrel, or in this case, imps, because there is nothing they can do, and you have a gun. More Revenant snipers. They are very short-lived as well. It looks like the archvile targeted one of them, which is why there was only 2 instead of 3 active. This next area, we've got a secret before we get into anything interesting. And this is a very useful secret. Look at all those rockets. That's enough rockets to give me a whole lot of ammunition. A lot of resources, all of which will be used later on. Also, if your favorite color is blue, then it's your lucky day. For reasons that I almost certainly don't need to explain. because I doubt that you are blind if you are watching a video, unless you just really like my commentary for some reason. But I made this map blue this time. I chose to make it blue because blue is a color that I was actually saving. And it's not really Swim with the Whales blue, it's more a deeper blue, which I'll talk about while I kill these barons. I chose blue because of what comes after this. What comes after this map is something even harder. Swim with the Whales map 3. Which, of course, I made Swim with the Whales red, so I might as well make the last map of Stardate blue. Although, this isn't the last map of Stardate. It is functionally, though. It's the finale map. And despite that, it's actually easier than map 6, I believe. I found all the fights here more consistent and more enjoyable, to be honest. I didn't really like map 6 a whole lot, at least at the moment I can say that. So I'd personally say that this one's a lot better. I decided to run in here so that I can escape the pain elementals for a bit. However, things don't always go to plan when you have two projectiles side by side. You can see me trying to get out of the way of those things. Luckily for us though, we've got this window. And it functions as a, well, I guess shooting fish in a barrel again, although the barrel is much larger. And there's not as large of a hole in it, I guess, in the top. This is kind of boring watching this, so wait until I get outside. Kill all the lost souls. These guys aren't too much of an issue unless they make a whole lot of lost souls, which unfortunately seems rather common. They're just a waste of ammo. Now we have another fight. This fight you can escape though, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Just run past him and up the elevator. These cacodemons are pretty problematic though, and they bring me down to low health yet again. I'm going to do something that I don't usually do, which is take this berserk. In most of my runs, I just ignore it, because I'm never on low enough health to actually warrant using it. But this is an exception. Now that I've run out of that fight, I can just shoot all the cacodemons from here. This is one of the ways in which I use the large rocket stores that I have. Yeah, those rockets certainly do make this map a whole lot easier. So it's a good thing you can get them. Especially early when you really need them. I guess you don't really need them, but it's much better. It's easier. And my philosophy for how I set up these runs is I try to find the most consistent and easy way to get things done. That way I can do it in the least amount of time. Although that doesn't really excuse the large breaks. This room here is probably the worst room on the map. Not in terms of difficulty, just in terms of level design. For one, we got chain gunner snipers, which aren't a fun thing. Especially when they both target you at once, which is something you don't want. Whenever they both target me at once, I always run back to cover. Because then you don't take as much damage. Now here we have some platforming. This isn't the reason why this is my least favorite room of the map. It's more what happened when you went up the platforming partially. Look, all these chain gunners are back. And of course, sniping is my favorite thing in Doom, most definitely. It's not like I dislike doing a bunch of sniping repeatedly, especially at far distances against hit scanners who can steal my health. But the real reason this room is the worst in the map is because it makes you repeat something like verbatim. It's exactly the same. And there's no real reason to do that. At the top of this place, though, is one fight that gave me trouble for like 5 minutes when I was first trying to figure it out. But I came up with a good strategy that's at least somewhat consistent. Rocket down the chain gunners and then plasma the vials. This next arena, this is one of the few times in which things go wrong. Usually this vial dies and I don't get zapped, but this is one of those unlucky times where I get zapped. It's a waste of health, an unfortunate one at that. Well, every waste of health is unfortunate, but particularly unfortunate when it's something that usually doesn't happen. Luckily, there's plenty of recuperation. Here's the second secret. You can hear when it hits the ground, so that's when I know when to jump. And now I have to race to the red key area. Well, the path, I suppose. And now I have to do this fight. This fight gave me some trouble. I died in it once, and I wasn't too pleased about that since I couldn't find a really good strategy for it. It's not so much this part of the fight that's the problem. It's the part after it. These guys are all easy to deal with, especially considering what I have. This radiation suit. Makes this room a lot easier. Now here's the problematic parts. I've got all these guys to deal with. It's the pain elementals that are the real issue, just like before. I got a little lucky here, and I was able to fire a bunch of rockets off. Because there wasn't any lost souls over here. Unfortunately, I'm out of plasma ammo, and that costs me significant health because of these damn mincubi. The good thing, though, is that, well, the mincubi weren't dead, the pain elementals were, and that allowed me to prevail this time. This room is not too difficult. It's basically a question of whether you get a slight bit unlucky or not. What I do is I lure the vials out to get them to infight the cyber demon potentially. It's always a good thing when vials infight cyber demons. Although I'm sure there's some WAD where it's not a good thing, so scratch that. It's not always, but in this case, it most certainly is. It takes me a bit to get that vial to die. And when I hit this switch, I get 2 more vials. Luckily, I don't get zapped this time. Not that I did the last time, but sometimes I do through here. Now with this vial right here, it's my priority to make sure he doesn't get around the corner, because that forces me to retreat significantly, and that's not something I want. Now these guys are going to take a long time to do anything, so I'm just here waiting. I'm trying to get the vial to die, and I do get zapped right there. But this cyber demon comes out, which usually happens, but I prefer the vials to be dead before this happens. Unfortunately, that is not the case here. And we have a very close call yet again with that rockets. Now I'm waiting for that vial. I want it dead before I have to super shotgun the cyber demon to death. Which is exactly what I'm going to do now. Save you the trouble of wasting too much of your time. The Revenants, it's probably just a good idea to hang back. I found that I was able to beat this fight almost every time with minimal damage by doing that. Although this time I wasn't able to do it with minimal damage, but I was able to beat it, so that's good. Because this next fight is pretty easy unless you do something stupid. And this isn't one of those days, so I don't. There's a lot more specters than you would think, especially after I rocketed a bunch of them. But once they're all dead, I can move on. But first I'm gonna get that soul sphere that I managed to save for myself. It will be very useful in this next area. Something I noticed at this point was that I was actually pretty good on time. This is the fastest I'd ever gotten to this point, despite having a slower start. So, I figured that was pretty neat. Now, we've got this cyber demon, but every time he walks over, like, into the center, That's how those teleporters work. Whenever you walk into the center, it teleports you counterclockwise. Of course, this only affects the monsters. If it affected you, that would make this a nightmare of a fight to deal with. But interesting. I might actually do that. Maybe that seems like a good idea. Again, I dodge a Cyber Demon rocket. Solely with luck. But fortunately, my luck is good today. At least for the moment. Now the Cyber Demon, it will kill almost all of the Revenants. Or all of them if you give it enough time. So I find that it's best to just keep it alive until everything is dead. Now we'll be back here later. There's a secret that I have to get, but I'd prefer I have the BFG in order to access it. When I grab the red key, 4 archviles are released from that pillar. So, I run down the stairs and shoot at him with missiles. Something Kevin McAllister might have done if they kept doing that. Assuming you know who that is. Usually I don't run up here, but this archvile's hanging back, so I decided to kill him more proactively instead of waiting. At this point, I figure that I have a decent amount of health. 101 exactly. And there is a soul sphere, which I have been neglecting because I haven't needed it yet. So I figure, why not bring me up to 200 196? And that's exactly what I do. Something I like about this map is that you can see other portions of it from pretty much everywhere. I think that's a good thing. It makes it more interesting to look at and more interesting to traverse. There's going to be a bunch of archviles coming in from all those holes in the wall. So I want to lure them all over to this side so that I can preoccupy the archviles on this side and take them on from the other side instead. It's better to fight a one-front war than a two-front war. Just ask the Germans in World War II and World War I. But before that happens, we've got a bunch of revenants that are going to come in through the teleporters. So I just run back here, and I want to lure them outside so that the archviles do not get to them. It's most certainly better to have archviles being distracted by imps than by revenants. Because, you know, revenants. It's kind of amusing. A lot of people hate revenants, but to be honest, they're one of the best designed enemies in the game. Which is why they're so widely used. Anyways, assuming that you've made it this far, tell me what you think of pretty much anything. Question of the day, what's your favorite color? I just might turn a map that color, so tell me it. And if you've got some obscure favorite colors, then I'm more than ready to hear about them. Because I'm gonna run out of primary colors eventually. Basic colors. Anyways, as you can see, an archvile did come from this side, but luckily it decided to run into the center and get caught up by all the other ones. And that gave me what I needed. A clear chance to kill them all. Something I didn't mention before is all these Hell Knights. They aren't too much of a threat unless you let them be, so just stay out of sight. Now here we have some pain elementals. Death pain elementals. This means that I can shoot at them, and only if they see me or get hurt they'll wake up. Here I can just run forward and shoot at them with the SSG, and they will all die without even releasing any lost souls. It's excellent. Now at this point, I've got a pretty good store of ammo. I don't really have to conserve ammo anymore, so I can just waste a bunch of rockets here. At the end fight, I will get a full supply of rockets and cells, so I just need to make sure I have the other two things. Although those two things aren't particularly useful there. This arena, it's a big arena, but it's also a bypassable arena. I run over there to lure all the arachnotrons away from the BFG so that I can collect it. And once the revenants start getting close, that's the time to run. This is probably the riskiest move so far that I have to do. But it does allow me to just sit up here and have nothing attacking me, for the most part. Sometimes a Kako comes up here, and that is something you can't really do much about. This is also the part in the recording in which I become deaf from revenants, as you can hear. What I'm doing right now is just waiting for everything to kill itself. You can see the kill counter going up, so I might as well tell you a story. I've got some advice for you, actually. Don't buy Tic Tacs because they are really good. And if you buy some, you're going to eventually want more, most likely. So just don't buy them. A good example of this, which is the story, is a long time ago I went to some random summer camp. It might have been like YMCA or something. And I brought Tic Tacs with me because I liked them at the time. And something I started doing is handing them out to people for favors. And people really liked the Tic Tacs because, you know, they're Tic Tacs. And it was kind of amusing because people started getting, like, mock addicted to them, sort of. Not like proper, just like being willing to do more and more interesting things to get them. And I found that kind of amusing. So, it was pretty fun, I guess. It's fun how, with Tic Tacs, I effectively had power over other people just by having Tic Tacs. So, that's pretty interesting. At one point, I decided to perform what they call a social experiment, and singled one person out and only gave them Tic Tacs. So, how this turned out is they would ask for a bunch of Tic Tacs, which of course I would give them, and they would become a semi-like supplier, like a drug dealer, and that was kind of funny. So, if you got any interesting stories in the comments, you might as well tell me them. I'm thinking up of another question I can ask you. Actually, what is your favorite shape? Like, you know, square, pentagon, hexagon. I know Insane Gazebo likes those. What's your favorite? Anyways, since this is still not done, I'm going to speed things up a bit until all the cyber demons are dead. Once the cyber demons are dead, that's when things can finally get going, but there's still a bunch of them alive. Usually they're all dead by this point and I have to kill what's left myself, but this is an irregularity. It's always interesting when the runs that are successful are irregular. It's usually when I get it on the first try that the runs become that way, but this is a different story, because this was attempt 9, and I already had a decent amount of experience at this map, and how I was going to do it, so that was surprising. Anyways, I might as well ask you, people, viewers, ladies and gentlemen, although mostly gentlemen, I might as well ask you, what would you like me to do next after Stardate and Swim with the Whales? Because we are nearing the end, so I figure it's a good thing to ask. If I better know what people want, then I can attune that to what actually happens. And reach some sort of compromise, I suppose, between me and all of you. Because usually, you can never agree perfectly with everyone. I mean, just ask the average comment section on any forum. It looks like I'm almost done with this room, or at least phase 1. Once these Mancubi are dead, that's going to be it. Unless there's some stragglers. So, when I get the yellow key, that's when these chain gunner pyramids come up. And that's when this invulnerability, which I might say looks very cool and blue, gets used. My goal here is to just kill the Archviles. Usually some of the ones over here don't get alerted, so I just kill them. Now something interesting is about to happen. Something unusual, which I happen to get lucky enough to survive. This is a paragon of both good and bad luck, because most of the time these guys never focus on me enough to actually hit me that much, but that time they focused on me so much that I nearly died, so I find that kind of interesting. These pesky Revenant missiles always following me around. Once all these chain gunners are dead, that's when the end phase happens. I'm going to start backtracking through the map to get all the secrets that I did not get yet, which I can get for easy with the BFG. And hitting this switch opens the door, allowing me to do so. So, stop 1 happens to be the teleporting Revenant and Cyberdemon room, which, lucky for me, feeds into stop 2. Shooting this switch releases 2 archviles and raises some of the floor up, so that you can dodge them. And secret number 2 is just down here. As I said, feeding into each other. Makes things easier for me. Wastes less time, I suppose. Now it's time for the final arena and the penultimate fight. I died at the penultimate fight once. I'm pretty sure that Bread was watching at that point, although he was very tired, so sorry for keeping you up later than you would like, Bread. The idea here is very simple, but very tedious, I suppose. Although it doesn't really feel tedious, because tension, you know? I'm going to, 1 or 2 at a time, collect every archvile and kill them. I'm going to speed this up a bit. The final fight, which is after this, of course, I've had a lot of problems with the final fight. I could find no consistent strategy to beat it, until I looked at a video by someone named Touchdown. You might know who he is. He's working on a WAD of his own. A fairly expansive one, as far as I know. And it looks pretty interesting, so if it's ever completed, you should check that out. However, his strategy for this fight was to, well, you'll see. However, according to him, he exhausted like every other option before going to that, and for him, doing the fight a normal way, which is like the intended path, was like a 1 in 100 chance. And that just doesn't sound fun after a 40 minutes deal. Although, based on my estimations, it's not so much a 1 in 100 chance for me, at least. But still, I'm not going to waste time. So, the idea here is I'm going to walk up the switch as it goes down, and now I'm behind here. After 40 seconds, these 3 pillars will lower. And after that happens, there will be cyberdemons inside of them, which I have to deal with. There's a bunch of enemies teleporting in on the arena. You might be able to see some of them. Like those, as you can see now. I'm going to lure projectiles into the pillars so that they'll infight. Unfortunately, I mistimed it, but fortunately that doesn't actually matter. Getting those spheres is very dangerous. But the good thing is that once you kill one cyberdemon, you're pretty much safe. What really needs to happen, though, is these cyberdemons need to beat the shit out of everything else that's alive. And when they do that, that means that you can win. At this point, what I do is I just look at the kill counter, and once it reaches steadily above 1480, that's when I know that things are going to finally end. Possibly. The most telling thing, though, that I should start getting things done and killing things myself is when the Cyberdemon, because there's usually only one Cyberdemon in fighting, when that Cyberdemon dies. Which is exactly what is about to happen. As you can see. Now I usually try and target the other Cyberdemon because it can do the most damage to me, and then kill what's left, and finally shoot this massive spiral of whatever it is. Something or other, the reactor core. I think that's what it's referred to in the text file. But anyways, that's it. That's Magnus finished. 4516. It's a pretty good map. It's probably my favorite map, just after map 2, which is my absolute favorite map. So, there you have it. Actually, maybe 5. I think that my hierarchy right now is 2, then 5, and 7, which this is 7. So, that's actually surprising to me. I thought that this map and map 5 would be the ones that I would either dislike the most, apart from map 3, or I would like map 6 the most. But right now I like map 6 the least, so that's a change of pace. Maybe it's because I died 80 times in it, but that just might be a theory. Anyways, next stop is Swim with the Whales map 3. And that's certainly going to be far more difficult than anything here. So wish me luck, and I'll see you there.